Hi, welcome back to Madison Library District's Adult Makers. And this month, keeping with our summer reading theme of Tales and Tales, we're going to do a little animal-related craft. So hopefully you have picked up a kit from the circulation desk. There are some things you'll need from home as well. You'll need something fabric to do your stitching on. I'm going to be using a shirt. You might use a ball cap, a book bag, your dog's winter coat, a baby bib. I don't know what you want to stitch on, but whatever it is, go grab it. You'll also need some scissors, and you might need a pencil. Okay, let's take a look at what's in the kit. Okay, inside your kit, you will find a piece of waste canvas. This is kind of a mesh meant for destroying, which we'll have fun doing later. It's roughly 6 inches by 6 inches, which is roughly 50 stitches by 50 stitches. A 14 count is kind of a normal size for waste canvas. This is 8.5, which means the stitches are going to be much bigger. I thought that would be good for those of us who are just getting used to this. All right, also inside you will find patterns. I tried to get a wide variety of animals and a wide variety of styles, so hopefully there will be something there that will appeal to you. And taped onto your patterns, you should also find a needle. Very important. I'm just going to take that off right now. Hopefully not poke myself too badly in the process. We'll set that aside for the moment. And you will see 5 big old safety pins. You'll see why you want those in a minute. And you'll find some embroidery floss. You'll find 5 colors here, 3 lengths each. And I'm going to have to talk to you about the embroidery floss here for a while. First of all, let's look at the colors. You've got 3 strands of white. Should you want to get more of this, this is DMC floss. And the color number for white is just simply blanc. This is a French-made thread, so that kind of makes sense. From here on out, though, we've got numbers. So instead of noir for the black, this is number 310. This nice warm brown we have is 301. Our bright pink color is longer number 3607. And the nice deep red is 816. All right, now you may have some problems with the floss. As you see, there's 8 different patterns. I have 5 colors that should cover any of them. However, I don't know what color for sure you're going to decide to do a bird in, or a butterfly, or a dragon. And therefore, I don't know how much of each thread to give you. So what I've done, as I said, there are 3 lengths of each color. I did a grouping of birds, and that was just perfect for it. If you do the dogs or the fox, the cow, I don't think you're going to have any problems. I also did another trial, and I did the cat, and I only had about half enough. A skein of embroidery floss is not terribly expensive, but if I'm trying to give you every color for as much as you might want, we just couldn't do it. I spent about $50 in embroidery floss and had to say, okay, stop. So here's what I'm going to say for those of you who may not have quite enough. I do have backups of the colors here, so you can come and say, hey, would you give me 3 more strands of white? I would be happy to do that. You might turn in the, say, pink and black that you are not using, and that will help somebody else have enough for their project. Another little problem which may arise, as I said, the red is number 816. Well, this is 816, and it's a beautiful red color. We got everything there was, and then found that there was no more to get. So we got another red. It's really close. It's not the same. And unfortunately, it is the mystery red. I do not have the color number for it. If you do come in for more red, make sure you bring a little sample so you can tell which one you need. And if you're not using the red, again, please bring that back. Since we do have lots of the mystery red, I'm going to be using it today and just kind of ignoring the others in hopes of helping anybody else who might need those later on. All right. Now, let's take a look at your patterns and your canvas. Oops. You'll see on your canvas there are periodically blue lines. Those are every 5th stitch in the grid, so that helps you count fairly easily. On some of these patterns, you will also see those grid marks. Usually, however, they are in grids of 10. So when you're doing your math, just bear that in mind. On these patterns, I have written out how many stitches it takes to do them. The cow is 49 stitches high by 29 wide. Butterfly is 42 by 43. Most of these should fit on your canvas without any difficulty. There are 3 exceptions. The dogs. The width is no problem. The height is definitely an issue. It's 58 stitches tall, which is going to be a little too big for your canvas. However, you can do a grouping of these 3 dogs or these 3 dogs, and you may even be able to bring those 2 dogs down a little bit and be able to get more of them together. So just experiment a little with that. Again, it's the same situation with the birds. 80 by 84, there's no way you're going to get all those birds on there. But if you look at groupings of 3, you'll probably be able to make it. So if you're doing one of those, what you'll need to do is get out your pencil and count how many stitches are actually in that design. So if you decide you want to do these 3 birds, oops, count out how many stitches that is, find the middle, divide it, and divide, fold your canvas, and that will be your starting place. Right there should match up with that, and you can work from there. The other one that's going to be a problem is the dragon. That's 33 by 56. Obviously, you can't do a grouping here, but if you just leave off this bottom little flourish of the tail, you're still going to have a pretty good looking dragon, and it should fit on your canvas. Okay, I'm going to do the dragon with my red, my mystery red. So if we look at this, luckily I do have that grid of 10, which makes counting easy. So there's 10, 20, 30, 40. This is 50 right here. And I'm 2 stitches short of 50, so 48 tall for the dragon without the little end flourish. Still 33 wide, so I can find the middle very easily this way. And if it's 48, that's 24. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's the middle. And the center is going to be just underneath his wing there. All right, now with that information, I am going to get out some floss. I am going to get out my shirt. I'm going to take this and fold it so that I just have that dragon showing and I don't have a lot of other stuff in the way. For me, that just makes it easier to deal with. We'll keep it right there. I'm done with the pencil for the minute. We'll put it aside. Now I've got to decide where I want to put this. And I'm going to go with just a classic front and center on the chest with this. Right there. I'm also going to do something a little strange. I have this. It was kind of hard to get this. It took weeks and weeks to get it in. And I want as many people to be able to use these kits as possible. I just noticed this morning that I had some waste canvas. It's the same grid at home that I had at home. It's a little heavier, which will be fun later on. But I think I'm just going to switch over to this. The size is a little different. It's a little narrower. It's a little longer. But if I'm working with the dragon, that will be just fine. So I'm going to put that on my shirt. Get it centered. Make sure it looks about where I want things to go. Then we're going to get out the safety pins. Open all those up. There is a chance that there may be one or two kits that do not have safety pins. We're running low. If that happens, do not panic. This will actually be easier for you in the long run. But if you just get a strand of thread, thread your needle, and baste along the edge like this, and just run it through, it's going to keep things even more secure than the safety pins. So don't worry about it too much. Just improvise. We're all about improvising, right? All right. All right, we want to pin this down, and pretty soon you're going to have an idea of what the biggest challenge of working with waste canvas is, and that is keeping everything from getting squished and squiggly underneath your waste canvas. We don't want to end up with puckers underneath, which can happen if you're not conscious of the tension of your thread or how your fabric is moving around. This is a knit, but it's a fairly stable knit, so I'm not too worried about it. The slinkier your fabric, so to speak, the more difficulty you're going to have keeping things in place. All right, so I've done this at each of the corners. Oops, trying not to get underneath. Don't want to sew the back to the front. That makes wearing difficult. Okay, and there's one more safety pin. I gave that to you just in case you're doing something like one of these bird groupings and your center is right in the middle where there isn't any stitching. You might want to put that safety pin in the center just to keep that stable until you've done a little in the center to keep things in place. Okay, so the last safety pin I'm going to ignore. All right, I've got my needle. I've got some embroidery floss. Usually when you do counted cross stitch, you use 2 strands of floss. Since this is we are making really big stitches, I'm going to use 3 just to kind of fill it in a little more. Your length of embroidery floss has 6 strands in it, so we want to divide that in half. The tendency is to just take 3 and 3 and pull down, and invariably it will end in a knot. I don't know why this works. I can't tell you the physics of it, but if you just grab one of those strands, hold on tight to the others, and pull, it comes out without any problem at all. So I recommend doing that. 2, and there's 3. I'll set those others aside. We'll need them later. And let's get those all lined up. And thread our needle. Okay, there we go. We're ready for some action now. Woohoo! I don't know if you can tell, but I did fold this in half, and I can see my crease running right down the center there. So I'm going to jump in there. Since my canvas is not exactly the same as yours, I'm not going to worry so much about centering this direction. I'm just going to worry about the center here, start towards the top, and go down as far as I can. If I have to end there, great. If it looks like I've got enough room to put that flourish on the end, I might do it as well. So here's our center line. Let me get that pencil back just to show it. It's right there. So our first row, you can see there's one stitch, two stitches skipped, and then two stitches. It's kind of an awkward way to start, and you'll see why in a minute. So what I think I'm going to do is start from this stitch and take these two down and then take these down. It doesn't necessarily have to be that way. It's the way I think I'm going to go. Ooh, or maybe I'll go this way, whatever. This one's going to be the first stitch. Okay, so here we are. Here's the center. I'm going to make my first stitch right here. And I'm going to come up from the bottom just to the right of center. And I'm going to pull up that thread, but not all the way. I want to leave just a little tail underneath. If you're used to regular embroidery, you usually make a knot. Not so great in counted cross stitch. It makes things lumpy. Plus, it could pull through and you'll leave a hole in your shirt. We don't want to go that way. So instead, I'm going to hold things in place here for a minute, and I'm going to go down. Then I'm going to hold that in place while I go through the stitch up here. What we're doing is making a little X. That's why it's called counted cross stitch. We're going to count a lot, and we're going to make little crosses. So there's our first stitch. Hopefully everybody's got a good look at that. A little fuzzy maybe. There's an X. Perfect. Okay, so we've done this stitch. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to make two stitches. One is going to be even on the right-hand side, and the other one is going to be to the left, just a little bit. And I still have this tail back here, and I want to try to make several stitches that are holding that in place. So we're going to come down. And we're going to take another stitch. Oops. Here's what you don't want to do. This is a lesson in the things you don't want to do. I went down and then I came up in the same hole, which doesn't make sense because it just pulls through. So let's go back and fix that. Hopefully I'll be paying a little more attention this time. Okay, we're threading the needle. There we go. And I went down and I made the lovely X. Yay! Oops. And I'm letting things move around. Let's not do that. Let's keep it in place. All right, there's my X. Now I'm going to go down here. We're going to make another X below it like we saw on the pattern. And I'm going to make another one to the left. How am I doing with that tail? It's still running loose there. Okay. Okay, so here's the pattern. I've done these 3 stitches. The next time around, it looks like there's one that's just below the stitch to the left. Let's see if I can get this down here a little bit more. If I hold it in place, there we go. You want to check that periodically as you start that strand. When you have your second and third strands, it's a little easier. You can just work that through a couple of stitches on the back and keep going. But the first stitch, you want to try to make sure that tail's secure. And another X to the left. I'm trying to make all my X's cross the same way. It's one of those picky little details that serious cross stitchers worry about. If yours don't lose a lot of sleep over it. Okay, so looking at my pattern, I've done this, I've done the 2 below, I've done the 2 below, and it looks like if I jump over one stitch, there's another one right there that will be easy to grab. I think I'm going to do that now. So we're going over, oops, and now I have doubled thread. There we go. So I've skipped a stitch in between, and now it looks like that stitch has one directly on top of it, so I'll go do it. And at this point, we'll look at the back. My tail is tied in. That's good. At this point I wanted to finish off the thread, I would just take a couple of stitches underneath some of these that are secure, and I can snip it off. If you're starting a new thread, same thing. Take it under a few, make sure it's secure, and keep going. Now, I could continue this way. However, chances are you guys are not doing the dragon, and you'd probably get pretty bored watching me do every single stitch on a pattern that you are not doing. So at this point, I'm going to say, I think you know what to do here. I'm just going to let you go do it, and let's skip to the end and see what happens there. Okay, so here we have a finished project, or at least all the stitching is done, and we're ready to waste that canvas. I'm going to help a little by just snipping off some of this, getting it out of the way. Oops. All right, here it is. This is the fun part, or sometimes the matting part. It's going to be hard on that heavier canvas that I was stitching on before, but this shouldn't be too bad. You're just going to grab these things with your fingernails and you're going to start pulling them. Okay. Now, these first ones, since there's no stitching on them, are going to come pretty easily. But the more stitches you have over that waste canvas, the harder it's going to be to pull them out. Okay, here we have 4 stitches on this strand. Fairly easy. It starts looking messy really fast, which is okay. There is not a rule of to which one needs to be pulled when. It will get all over everything. If you have a little waste basket handy, it'll save some cleanup later. Your fingers are going to get a little bit tired. Now see, now I'm pulling where there's quite a bit of stitching, and it's not going quite so easily. It is entirely possible and even probable at some point that your thread will break halfway through. So you'll pull hard and this part will come off and it'll break off there. Just pull it from the other end. Keep going. If it breaks off on both sides, which could happen, you might want to get one of those big old safety pins and just try to pick out a center stitch and then pull it from there. Okay, we're down to the last little bit here. You can probably see that once the grid has been kind of destroyed, the last few stitches come out fairly easily. I'm doing a lot all at once, and now it's done. There's my kitty, ready to wear to summer reading. I hope you've enjoyed doing this waste canvas project. As I said, come in and get more thread if you need. Feel free to drop off the thread that you're not using, and I hope you find something fun to embellish. Thanks for coming.